All right, we have a couple of appearances this evening. So first up, we will have GTI providing some updates.
Well, first of all, thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to have an open dialogue with you all. So appreciate that. Understand, obviously, there were concerns raised from town residents about the odors from our operations on Comet Drive. If you're not familiar, GTI is Green Thumb Industries. We are a publicly traded cannabis company based out of Chicago, Illinois. So back in January, we presented a plan of odor control, which GTI committed to implementing at a significant cost, both in terms of capital investment and ongoing operation. And, giving a little bit of background, and then I'll tell you where we're at today. Overview. As a reminder, we hired Byers Scientific to perform an assessment of the odors from our operations and to recommend an odor control plan with the goal of elimination. This plan involved the purchase and installation of a molecular, and pardon me, these are big words, molecular filtration, aka carbon scrubbing system inside its facility as a preliminary phase of odor control, and an exterior atomization odor control system as a secondary measure utilizing a safe and effective liquid odor neutralizer. We are committed to ongoing operation, adjustment, and monitoring of this equipment to eliminate odor to the level possible. Today's update, as of today, we have installed the complete system and are starting up and commissioning all of the components over the next 2 weeks. Byers Scientific is actually on site today and tomorrow to help us start setting baseline so that we can make sure that it's performing the way it was intended and designed. Next, I'd like to kind of walk you through all the commitments outlined in our previous letter from December of 2023 and provide updates on those particular items. As I mentioned, we're taking baseline measurements over the next 2 weeks while the setup is finalized. We plan to turn on the full odor control system on May 15th, 2024. So a letter dated December 13th, 2023 to the town council. We committed to a couple of spaces in particular. We talked about concentrated events. Those are where we're focusing our efforts. So extraction in particular is where we take a lot of cannabis. We really kind of boil it down or distill it down, and that's where a lot of our smell emanates from in our facility. So the inner booth space, as well as the outer booth space for the extraction exhaust, we have installed the molecular air filtration systems in those spaces for the CO2 room exhaust, and we use CO2, carbon dioxide, as a solvent to help us extract cannabinoids from the cannabis. The facility's CO2 room exhaust was also measured, and we addressed that situation with a molecular air filtration system or carbon scrubbing. Post-processing room also has exhaust. It was deemed no filtration necessary for those exhausts based on the measurements taken. Kitchen exhaust, we did also install a molecular air filtration in the kitchen exhaust hoods as well. In the kitchen, we make gummies with cannabis infused. ERV exhaust, this was measured at 500 CFM, so deemed a source of potential odor, and we addressed that also with a molecular air filtration system. Cultivation harvest indoor, no controls were recommended by Byers Scientific at this time. What we found is that when we take it and concentrate it down further is where the real smell odors are coming from, and that's where we addressed our system and our solution. And then the drying trailer outside will also have a molecular air filtration installed as well. And I believe that completes the updates from the letter dated December 13th of last year. Going forward, we're also implementing a long-term monitoring plan. We're going to have a quarterly third-party testing to ensure the effectiveness of the system. So they'll measure it without the system on and with the system on each quarter. Based on the results of the testing, the system will be adjusted to ensure to eliminate odor to the level possible. GTI will be making regular filter changes changes and calibrations of these systems to continue to ensure the effectiveness. And also additionally, GTI reps, we did meet with Symphony Village late last year, and we'd like to also hold a follow-up meeting there in the subsequent weeks, because I think that'd be an important piece to this. So that kind of wraps up my summation. Hopefully I can answer any questions you have.
Go with.
I believe we can. Through this 2-week process, we're going to, determine the effectiveness and
Right.
then report back on the effectiveness to say, hey, we've got more work to do. We believe that this is an effective solution. We overbuilt and prepared for this, but yes, we'd come back and share more information as it becomes available.
Okay.
Did this work? And if so, certainly would be easier to ask folks to do it ahead of time, right? I mean, a custom build, this is why it's taking so long. Most people are probably being like, weren't we talking about this 6 months ago? We were. And so ultimately, with a custom design system, because we had to make it fit into what we're already doing, I definitely think talking to anyone who would come in later would be helpful to say, listen, this was a problem for our first producer. Here's how they mitigated or eliminated the odors.
Right.
We'd appreciate if you do this up front, because I think if it's built into the HVAC from the beginning, it's cheaper and also, just faster.
Oh, yeah.
So you're saying if there's a metric that we could codify to say.
Yeah, whatever that is.
You must
so many
mitigate
particles
to
per.
a certain level.
Yeah,
Like, we have to do it
there'll be a
fast.
Whatever it
CFM
is.
level.
Yeah.
I'm not a scientist, so I will definitely get the scientists to tell me, what that is, and we'll share that back. Because there's definitely a point where you could measure it, but you wouldn't smell it, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, I have noticed that the smell has been greatly reduced. I don't know if you've done anything recently, but I used
So
to.
the machine,
Right.
it's
Right.
been on, but intermittently as we test to make sure that its effectiveness.
Right.
Outdoor trailer, I think will make a big impact as well for this year. That drying trailer will have, the carbon scrubbing as well.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's good to hear that it's been reduced, and obviously we're going to continue to work to, be a good partner to the community. It's important to us. A lot of our folks live in the community, that work for us. So certainly being good neighbors and partners is important to us.
2 quick questions, though.
Sure.
The first is, there are 2 legal entities that operate in the building, is that correct?
2 licenses, yes,
2
sir.
licenses.
So the way that the state of Maryland splits us is typically cultivation and what we would call manufacturing licenses. The cultivation is strictly plants. When we take it and further process it, whether that's extraction, cooking gummies, et cetera, that allows us the ability to do that. So we are seen as 2 separate licenses within the building.
The solution is basically for both
Correct.
areas that are licensed.
Yes, sir.
And that, I know, would be a question that might come up.
Okay.
And then, just so I understand, so the next 2 weeks will be sort of implementation, assessing, and then there might be an opportunity to tweak or strengthen kind of what you're doing.
Yeah, as it should work as designed, but we also like to commission things properly to make sure that they actually do work, and that, obviously we paid buyers a good amount of money to help us with this, so we're holding them accountable as well to make sure that it works as designed. Buyers Scientific is a company out of Colorado that actually specializes in cannabis odor, elimination and mitigation. So we're confident this is going to work, but certainly, we like to test first and, measure twice, cut once.